right, we are continuing with the second message of the series named Prophecy Revealed. And today's message is called The End is Come. A quick review of the first message called Our Time Is Come, and I strongly encourage everyone to go look at that if they haven't seen it already. We go through Job 39 and Lamentations 4 together, and we review the beasts of Job's jungle, which is the rhino, those that are trusting in the strength of the nations for salvation, the peacock, those that have pride and vanity, the ostrich, those that are ignorant, they are scoffing of the times and the signs, and have great neglect of their young. The horse and his rider, they come for war and destruction, to conquer and to go conquering. The hawk that swiftly pursues its prey, the eagle that is rising up on command to take the prey, and the vulture, those that hide in secret and then at the end roll around in the blood of the killed. And we are instructed to be Job's joyous animals, such as the stork, the nurturing parents, quiet and returning to their roots, the wild goat with deliverance in the wilderness and sure-footed along the path, the deer whose birth pangs are relieved, and the young are raised without fear. They have strength and feet and set on high places. And finally the donkey, free in the wilderness and laughing at the trials of those in the cities. I start this message off by saying that I am not a prophet, nor am I a prophet's son, but merely a servant of the Most High. But of the times and the seasons, everyone, you have no need that I tell you. We know that Yah will do nothing without revealing first instruction to his servants, the prophets. And we can understand by books the words of Yah to the prophets. And then we remember the words of Messiah. He said that those that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And if you endure to the end of this message, you will see something that's pretty incredible. I'm going to show you at the end 2 potential timestamps for events in Revelation. And as I am not a prophet, we will test these things, and we will see next year if they come to pass. We're going to be tying a lot of Revelation together today with Ezekiel. This is a summary of the prophecies of Ezekiel as they overlay with the chronology of Revelation. We start off in Ezekiel 7. Thus says Yah, an end is come to the land of Israel. The end is come upon the 4 corners of the land. The end is come, now the end is come to thee, and I will send judgment upon you. Note that Ezekiel 7 is a summary of the times that Yah is telling Israel that an end is coming to their current ways, their current times. The first end is come is to the land of Israel. That was just in a few years after Ezekiel spoke these things, when Nebuchadnezzar came and took the southern kingdom of Judah to Babylon, and the end came to Jerusalem. The second end is come is for Jerusalem in 70 AD time period, when the Romans came and likewise destroyed the city of Jerusalem and the second temple. Now starting in Ezekiel 7 verse 9, we read, For thus says Yah, behold, the end is come, behold the day of Yahweh. This is different. Although the rod has blossomed, pride has sprung up, and will break the staff of the wicked one. The time is come, behold the day. Let not the buyer rejoice, let not the seller mourn. The buyer shall never return again to the seller, neither shall a man cleave with the eye of hope to his life. Sound the trumpet, and pass sentence on all together, knowing that the rod blossoming calls back to the rod of Aaron that blossomed and gave forth almonds. This was a shadow picture of the coming of our blessed Messiah and Savior, Yahushua. Truly, the rod did blossom. Messiah manifested himself to the land of Israel on his first coming and spoke the good news, the gospel. However, since then, pride has sprung up. And think about the animals now. Job's jungle, those that trust in the rhino, the pride and vanity of the peacock, pride swelling up in the ostrich. And he, the rod that has blossomed, will break the staff of the wicked one. But not immediately. But the time is come, behold the day of Yah. Sound the trumpet, pass sentence on all together. There's judgment coming for all on the earth. No one gets out of judgment. And we turn to Ezekiel 8. And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, and on the 5th of that month, behold, the glory of Yahweh was there. Son of man, Ezekiel, have you seen what these do here? They commit great abominations so that I should keep away from my sanctuary. And yet you will see greater iniquities than this. There are those that are worshiping the sun. They have filled the land with iniquity. And behold, these are as scorners. Again, the ostrich right there. I will deal with them in wrath, the wrath of Yahweh. My eye will not spare, nor will I have any mercy. And just recalling really quickly that the ostrich will scorn the horse and his rider. And what is the horse and his rider? Behold, I saw a white horse, said John, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him to go forth to conquer. Revelation 6:2, the first seal. And Ezekiel 9 shows us that judgment begins. The judgment of the city is drawn nigh. The glory of the Elohim of Israel that was upon them went up from the cherubs to the porch of the house. And in the temple the glory of Yahweh resided in the most set-apart place over the ark of the covenant. And there were likenesses of cherubim, 2 cherubs in the most set-apart place with the ark of the covenant. So the glory of Yah moved from the most set-apart place in his temple and left the temple entirely and went to the porch of the temple, or the porch of the house. And there were 6 men that came with weapons. And he said to the first of them, go through the midst of Jerusalem and set a mark on the foreheads of the men that groan and grieve for all of the iniquities that are done in this land in the midst of them. And he said to the first of those men, have no mercy, slay utterly old man and the youth, and virgin and infants and women, but do not touch any on whom has that mark, that have groaned and grieved for all of the iniquities in the land, and begin at my sanctuary. And so they began with the elder men who were within the house. And he said to the 6 men with the weapons, defile the house, and go out and fill the ways with dead bodies and smite. Now we look at the parallel here, and in 2 Corinthians 6, Paul reminds us we are the temple of the living Elohim. And the direction to go slay all of those that don't have the mark is to defile the house, corrupt the house, his temple. And where is his temple right now? His temple should be every single body on this earth. And he said to the men, finish defiling the house, and fill the ways with dead bodies, and smite. And start with the elder men, but also slay youth and young ladies, and even babies and women, everyone, and fill the ways with dead bodies. Now think about this. First of all, the mark that is set on the foreheads of the men that groan and grieve is one of the marks of the Most High. And for more information on that, you would need to refer to the 2 messages called The Marks of the Most High and the Signet Ring. So now we see the hawk coming into action here. The hawk is the animal that comes in swiftly pursuing the prey. And lest we have forgotten already, in the year 2020, there was something called Operation Warp Speed to roll out a health initiative, shall we say, that was not really for our good, but it was described to be. And what was the first group of people that this health initiative was targeted for? Who were the first ones that could take that health initiative? If you recall, it was the elderly. If you really remember, just a few years ago, they staged it out so that for the first batches that they had, the elderly were the ones that were eligible to get it first. And as Ezekiel says, they began with the elder men. And what does this health initiative do? It puts things in people's bodies that are not supposed to be there. It has many abominations in them. From cells from the unborn, which is an abomination, and unclean animals, more abominations, and even more things than that. And you are the temple of the living Elohim. What? Don't you remember that you are the temple? And Ezekiel 9 says, go, start with the elder men, defile the house, and slay all. have no respect for man or woman, old or young, and even babies. And you recall that at the end, they were recommending this health initiative even for the children and for pregnant women, that it would affect their infants also. Fill the ways with dead bodies and smite. And if you've had eyes to see, you've seen some of that happening. And how is this possible? Well, because the glory of Yah departed from the house. He was departing from the temple, and now he's standing outside of the temple when this happens. He is lifting his protection off of people now as judgment is beginning, and as his glory departs from the inside of the temple to outside of the temple, there are legal portals open, and the path is cleared for the destruction to take place, because his glory is now not in the temple of many, and is now standing outside of the temple. Now going to Ezekiel 10. Then the glory of Yah departed from the house, from the porch of the house, and went up on the cherubs. And you'll see in Ezekiel that the throne of Yah had come down over Jerusalem, and you see the cherubim and the wheels. And so the glory of Yah had moved from the porch of the temple up to underneath his throne where the cherubim are, by the wheels. So now he's removing his protection even further away from Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is used as a metaphor here. It's not only Jerusalem, but it's all of the land where Israel is. And remember, we are all called to be part of spiritual Israel. And he says, Son of man, Ezekiel, these right there that you see, these are the men that devise vanities and take evil counsel in the city. They are claiming, have not the houses been newly built? Isn't everything going great? They are saying. However, the truth is, this is the cauldron, and we are the flesh. These are evil devices that they are planning and they are implementing. Therefore prophecy against them, and the Spirit of Yah fell upon me and said, Thus says Yahweh, O house of Israel, I know the devices of your spirit. You have multiplied your dead in the city, and you have filled your ways with slain men. Now we will go into more detail between this and Revelation in further messages, but as this is just a summary, I am just going to say that this is right here the second and third seals of Revelation. The second seal is the red horse. Power was given to him to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And given unto him was a great sword, which are those evil devices that they should kill, meaning that is coming. It starts, but it is not fulfilled only at the second seal. And the third seal is famine, but the evil device that comes with him is a pair of balances in his hand. Can anybody see the economic changes that are right at our doorstep right now? The cyber currency coming, the changing from the petrodollar, and the Great Reset. This is what that is all about. And when he had opened the fourth seal, behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and power was given unto them, over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword and hunger and death, and with the beasts of the earth. So it's not only the pale horse and his rider, the power that's given unto them, it's all of them, all of the horses over the fourth of the earth. So it's not one and then he goes away and the next one comes and he goes away. The first one shows up and then the second one comes and starts riding with the first horse, the black horse, and starts riding with the white and the red horse. And then the fourth shows up and rides along with the first and the second and the third seal horses, the white, the red, and the black, to kill with the beasts of the earth. And again, we go right back to Job to see some of the beasts. That's going to be your hawk, your eagle, and the vulture in the background, and of course the beasts of the prophecy of Daniel also. Now note that the breath of our nostrils was taken in their destructive snares. That was in the last message, but I'm bringing it up again. What were the devices that were in the hospitals when people went in thinking they were sick with what was in the news at the time, and they were taken to the hospitals and stuck on ventilators and put on drugs that they shouldn't have been put on, and many died. And how did they die? Because their breath was literally taken in destructive snares. Wake up. This is your tribulation happening right now. We move to Ezekiel 11. Now Yah is speaking to those that have created the evil devices. You shall fall by the sword. I will judge you on the mountains of Israel, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. In Revelation 16, out of the mouth of the dragon, the spirit of devils, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to battle on that great day of Elohim Almighty. And he gathered them together in a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, Harmageddo, the mountain of Megiddo. And after Messiah comes with that one-sided battle with the sword of his mouth, the beast is taken, and with him the false prophet. And then the remaining were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the white horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth. Revelation 19. This is his promise to those evildoers that are devising these evil devices right now and are being implemented in our world right now, right before everyone's faces. But so many are holding on to false doctrine, thinking that they will be out of here before these things happen. That is part of the great deception. Now Ezekiel cries out to Yah, will you utterly destroy the remnant of Israel? And the word of Yah came to me saying. Now stop there for a second. The timeline and chronology of Ezekiel can be lined up with the chronological events in Revelation by what he put into his prophecy. And the delineation point where you mark each section of Ezekiel with the next event in Revelation is, quote, and the word of Yahweh came to me saying, unquote. And those are the words that we look for now in Ezekiel, starting in Ezekiel 11, verse 13, and we use those as the marker or the delimiter to overlay the next verses of Ezekiel onto the next event that's described in Revelation. And we start overlaying Ezekiel right here upon the fifth seal, and as we go through this, you'll understand why. Because the overlap verses of Ezekiel and Revelation embellish each other and add to the understanding of each other. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, all the house of Israel are come to full. Thus says Yah, I will cast them off among the nations, and will disperse them into every land. Yet I will be to them for a little sanctuary in the countries which they shall enter. We have already been cast off among the nations, dispersed into every land, but now he will be unto us a little sanctuary in all of the countries where we are now at, for those in the remnant that are truly clinging to him in covenant through these times. Thus says Yah, I will also take them from the heathen and gather them out of the lands wherein I have scattered them, and I will soon give them the land of Israel. This is a promise to the remnant that are in covenant with him. And I will give them another heart, and I will put a new spirit within them, and I will extract the heart of stone from their flesh, and give them a heart of flesh, so that they may walk in my commandments, and keep my ordinances, and do them, and they shall be to me a people, and I will be to them their Elohim, their Almighty. This is the promise of eternity that he's giving us. And at that point, the glory of Yahweh went up from the midst of the city, even away from the cherubim, and stood on the mountain which was in front of the city. So the glory of Yah departed completely from the city of Jerusalem, and is now standing on the Mount of Olives, looking over the city, but now the glory is no longer protecting Jerusalem. It's no longer in Jerusalem at all. This means that the mercy and patience that Yahweh has been giving so many people that are not aligned with where he wants them to be, in faith and or in obedience, his protection is now removed. And with his mercy and protection removed, the adversary now has access to all those that do not have the full armor on, that have open legal portals, that are not in covenant. And the affliction, the tribulation shall increase greatly from this point. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yah, and for the testimony which they held. So the souls of them that were slain was for the word of Yahweh the Father, and for the testimony, which is the testimony of his Son, Yahushua. The word of the Father, the testimony of the Son. This is still the 5th day of the 6th month, and the word of Yah came to me saying, so we have the next marker, we have the next divider now for the subsequent verses to be on the next action in Revelation. Son of man, you dwell in the midst of the iniquities of those who have eyes to see and see not, and ears to hear but hear not, because the house of Israel is provoking. It is a provoking house, because it's full of pride, it's full of iniquity, full of sin, because they do not keep the word of Yah. Therefore, Son of man, prepare yourself baggage for going into captivity. You shall go forth even as a captive does in their sight, and go forth in secret. Cover your face, and you shall not see the ground, because I have made you, Ezekiel, a sign to the house of Israel. Understand who the house of Israel is by going and watching Crossing Over the Ones from Beyond, part 1 of that series. So the house of Israel, the provoking house that's full of iniquity, is going into captivity. Prepare baggage. And the next thing in Revelation, part of the 5th seal, it is said unto those that cried out, the souls of them that are under the altar, hold on for yet a little season, until your fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. Now how should the fellow servants and also their brethren, how will they be killed? Because they are all going into a deeper captivity, which is why Ezekiel 12 says, prepare baggage for going into captivity. Prepare for this event. It's yet for a little season, so you have time to pack for this season of captivity. And during this time, you can either pack your bags to go into captivity, or pack your bags and get out of Babylon, like he told us, flee and go to the wilderness. The clock is ticking, he says. And we move to Ezekiel 12, verse 8. And the word of Yahweh came to me in the morning, saying. Now, all of Ezekiel that we have been reading so far started on the 5th day of the 6th month. And now it is the next morning that the word of Yahweh comes to him. So now it is year 6, month 6, day 6. Did you catch that? Ezekiel say to them, thus says Yahweh, even to all of the house of Israel who are in the midst of them, everyone say, I am performing signs as I have done in the past. So shall it be to him. They shall go into banishment and captivity. It was time for them to pack their bags, and I will spread out my net upon him, and he shall be caught in my toils, and I will bring him to Babylon, to the land of the Chaldeans, but he shall not see it, though he shall die there. Why don't they see it? Because they are scoffing at what's happening. They're scoffing at the horses. They're scoffing at the time of tribulation that's right in front of their faces, but they're not seeing it. The ostrich. And I will leave of them men in number that are spared from the sword, and from famine, and from pestilence, that they may declare all of the iniquities of the house of Israel among the nations to them wherever they are. Then all shall know that I am Yahweh. Even though the house of Israel is now going into captivity, Yah said that he's going to leave a number of men that are spared from the sword, red horse, and from famine, black horse, and from pestilence, pale horse, and that these people that are spared in a number will declare all of the iniquities to the nations wherever these men are, so that by the end of these things they shall all know that Yahweh is Elohim of all. Now he said, I am performing signs as I have done, just as many times that Yah has performed signs in the past that we've seen through the Old Testament and the New Testament. And what we have next is the 6th seal, because, and the word of Yah came to me saying, so we go to the 6th seal. And when he'd opened the 6th seal, the sun became black, and that's a sign. So he's now starting to perform signs as he has done in the past. And certainly the 7 trumpets that are to follow are great signs of judgment upon the earth and his anger and the tribulation. So during the 6th seal, men are numbered also, and John heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So you see the verbiage of the 6th seal of Revelation 7:4 describing the number of men that are sealed, and there are 144,000. And Ezekiel 12 telling you that there are left men in number that are spared from the sword and famine and pestilence. Why? That they may declare the iniquities of the nations to them. Ezekiel 12 is your second witness of the 144,000. It's just that the number of them was told in Revelation 7:4. But in Ezekiel, the reason why they are spared is said because they are to declare the iniquities of the inhabitants of the earth during these times. And they will be spared the effects of the plagues, the pestilences, the sword, and the trumpet judgments to come. You can see now how the sixth seal in Ezekiel 12 overlays with the sixth seal descriptions in Revelation 6 and 7. The signs and the numbering of the 144,000 that are there to declare iniquity. And now as we go through certain portions of the remaining seals and trumpets, we will do a quick summary on some of them to keep this message from being over 3 hours long. But Yah willing, in subsequent messages, we will circle back to these in more detail. But there's a summary and a timeline to show here, a framework that the remaining messages of prophecy are all hung upon. In Ezekiel 12:17, and the word of Yah came to me saying, and that correlates with Revelation 8:1, and when he opened the seventh seal. 4 verses later, and the word of Yah came to me saying, and another angel came and stood at the altar having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense. Next, in Ezekiel 12:26, and the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, thus says Yah, henceforth none of my words shall linger, which I shall speak. I will speak and do, says Yah. So since the days of Moses and even before, Yah has been speaking prophetic words of things that he will do in the future, when the times of the day of Yahweh comes. And he spoke those words, and they have lingered over the centuries and millennia. They've been prophecy up to now. But now he says right here in Ezekiel 12, Tell them that henceforth none of my words shall linger any more. I will speak these things, and I will do them immediately. No longer will his words be written down as prophecy, waiting for the time that they should be fulfilled. Now his words will be enacted as he speaks them, just as how it happened in Genesis. Let there be light, and there was light. Let there be firmament, and there was firmament. And the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and the animals, and it was all so. Starting here in the end-time timeline at Ezekiel 12, the things that he speaks will now immediately happen. This is at the seventh seal, and the angel took the censer and filled it with the fire of the altar and cast it into earth. The earth is ready to receive his judgments. Ezekiel 13, verse 1. And the word of Yah came to me, saying, Therefore thus says Yah, I will cause to burst forth a sweeping blast with fury. There will be a flooding rain, and in my fury I will bring on great stones for complete destruction. And the first trumpet, the next event in Revelation, the first angel sounded the first trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And so just as he said, henceforth I will speak and I will do, there shall be a flooding rain and great stones for complete destruction. And Revelation describes that flooding rain and stones for destruction, hail and fire mixed with blood for great destruction. It says all green grass was burned up for complete destruction. But most of Ezekiel 13, associated with the first trumpet, Yah speaks of his judgments against the world, the judgments against all of the false visions and false prophecies and all of the vanities and abominations and whoredoms that are prevalent and covering the earth in a way that has never happened before. And there are so many channels popping up on social media of people speaking visions and speaking prophecy, and people trying to teach online that should not be teaching. These people are speaking visions that are false. They are speaking prophecies that are false. They are speaking doctrine that's false. There is great vanity in this world right now. You can see it again through social media or the news. Celebrity idol worship, love of money, overwhelming and horrible abominations that are happening right now, and a spirit of fornication. The first trumpet equates to judgment against these things. Know that his ways are above our ways, and his thoughts are above our thoughts. And as we are in this world, ducking and covering away from the great stones, the hail and fire mixed with blood, and the destruction that's going around, His thoughts and his ways are on the judgment that's happening for all of the iniquity in the world that he had just warned Ezekiel to tell everybody about. The provoking house of Israel that's full of iniquity and sin. Ezekiel 13. And we move to Ezekiel 14. And the word of Yahweh came to me saying, so now we have the second angel sounding. In Ezekiel 14, he speaks on judgment against the evil devices that the evil men have brought into the world, that are being used against everyone for destruction, for maiming, for defiling, for killing. The current buzzword is depopulation and wealth redistribution, but the wealth is being redistributed from the world to the evil. That is the way of the evil men right now, the beasts of the world, and Yahweh is calling his judgment against these evil devices in the second trumpet. And read Ezekiel 14 verses 3 through 11 for that. And in Ezekiel 14:12, and the word of Yahweh came to me saying, so we are now at the third trumpet. Thus says Yahweh, my 4 sore judgments, sword and famine and evil beasts and pestilence. Behold, there shall still be men left in it, the escaped thereof, who shall lead forth of its sons and daughters. Behold, they shall go forth to you, and you shall see their ways and their thoughts. And you shall mourn over the evils which Yah has brought upon Jerusalem, but these shall comfort you, because again you shall see their ways and their thoughts. It's repeated. And you shall know then that Yahweh has not done in vain all that he has done, because he's still calling people to repentance and to the faith and the testimony and to walk in his ways and follow the path that he set out in front of us. And the men left in it, the escaped thereof, again is another reference to 144,000. Those people that are sealed, protected from the atrocities and the tribulations. But they have a job to do, and that's to warn those in the earth that will listen to them and understand the tribulation at hand and the times growing short to repent and for salvation and for the glory of the kingdom that he's promised in his word throughout. And the third trumpet sounded, and it is wormwood. And the word of Yah came to me saying, and there is judgment against Jerusalem, Ezekiel 15:2 through 8. This is judgment against the land. Revelation 8:12. And the fourth angel sounded, third part of the sun was smitten. And next in Ezekiel 16, and the word of Yah came to me saying, and laying on top of that is the fifth angel that sounded, Revelation 9. And it is judgment against fornication again, and sexual abominations, and the killing of the young, the killing of the unborn. This is judgment against the abortions that are happening. Ezekiel chapter 16, verses 2 through 63. 61 verses of judgment. This is the provoking house full of abominations and iniquity and sin. Son of man, testify to Jerusalem of her iniquity. Now at this marker here in Ezekiel 16:1, he gives us a sign to show that this place in Ezekiel is the fifth trumpet. Because he says in Ezekiel 16:2, Son of man, testify to Jerusalem her iniquities. And then he describes them for 61 verses. But then in Revelation 11:3, as part of the fifth trumpet, he said, I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth, and they will prophesy in Jerusalem. And those 2 witnesses will testify to Jerusalem of her iniquities. Ezekiel 17 verse 1, and the word of Yah came to me saying, Speak a parable to the house of Israel. This is a great eagle with large wings, spreading them out very far. They have the design of entering into Libanus, and he took the choice branches of the cedar. He cropped off the ends of the tender twigs and brought them into the land of Canaan. He laid them up in a walled city. And that parable describes the great eagle, which took part of the remnant that were in covenant with him and took them to a different land, while trying to spread out a great empire in days gone by. This great eagle colonized the world back in the 1600s and 1700s. The great eagle of Great Britain. And that parable is as the 6th angel sounded the trumpet. And we continue, and there was another great eagle with great wings and many claws, and behold, this vine bent itself round towards him. These are the choice branches that have become this vine that has bent itself round towards him. She thrives in a fair field by much water to produce shoots and bear fruit that she might become a grapevine. And this is speaking of America. Therefore, thus says Yah, shall it prosper? Shall not the roots of her tender stem and her fruit be blighted? Yes, all of her early shoots shall be dried up, and that vine shall be dried up not by a mighty arm, nor by many people to tear her up from her roots. And behold, it thrives now. Shall it prosper? No, it shall wither as soon as the east wind touches it. It shall be withered together with the growth of its shoots. And this is an incredible prophecy of the entire history of America, where the original settlers were part of the remnant of Yah that was in covenant with him, brought here by the empire of Great Britain. These young shoots, the choice branches turned into a great vine by many waters. These choice branches turned into a good vine in a fair field, the continent of the country, by much water, surrounded by the oceans, to produce shoots and to bear fruit, that she might become a grapevine, a great people, and bearing fruit, which is righteousness. This country has produced fruit, the means to send the gospel to the ends of the earth. But in the end, shall not the roots of her tender stem and her fruit be blighted? Her fruit is blighted. Yes, even the gospel has been blighted now in these last days. It's a great deception at hand, and the fruit has been blighted, and the roots of the stem shall be blighted. But not by a mighty arm, not by a mighty nation coming in and destroying it, nor not by many people, just a few people to tear her up from her roots. And that eagle you can read about in Job 39 and 2nd Esdras. You can guess some of the names of the few people by the pictures, to tear her up from her roots, because this country has been planted like the parable of the sower. Spiritually, these young shoots, the vine, are dropped on stony ground, and so the roots are easily torn up, because when the roots are on stony ground, they can only endure for a certain time. And when affliction or persecution arises, or tribulation, and that is another result of the great deception which is happening right now. Great offenses when the truth is shown. The roots are torn up by not many people, those evil people that make the evil devices, those great men which were the merchants of the earth, which deceive the nations with their sorcery, i.e. pharmakia. And that vine shall be withered together with the growth of its shoots. This country's coming down. It is the beginning of the end for Babylon, Mystery Babylon, the harlot. But specifically, it is the beginning of the end for the U.S. And the time is at the sixth trumpet. Ezekiel 17:11, and the word of Yah came to me, saying, Son of man, say now to that provoking house, that house of Israel, the whole city of Jerusalem, that whole vine field in that fertile land, did you not know what these things were? Whenever the king of Babylon shall come against Jerusalem, he shall take her king and her princes, that it may become a weak kingdom, so as never to lift itself up again, that that ruler of Babylon may keep his covenant and establish it. It's not a covenant of Yah, it's a covenant of the king of Babylon. And Pharaoh shall make war upon him to cut off souls. Wars will be everywhere. His hands will be engaged. A net will be spread upon him, and he shall be caught in its snare. In every battle of his they shall fall by the sword. And the rest of this chapter 17 of Ezekiel overlays on top of the seven thunders of Revelation. Seven thunders utter their voices. And so we see that the time of the seven thunders is going to be a time of great war, a great many deaths, to cut off souls. Go back to the first message and you'll see more on that there. But this is the time of the beast of the vulture. The ways of the vulture start becoming manifest at this time. It's been hiding in secret until now, and now it's time for the vulture to come out a little bit. Revelation 10 verses 3 through 4. And when he had cried, seven thunders uttered their voices. And when the seven thunders had uttered their voices, John was about to write, but heard, seal up those things which the seven thunders uttered, and write them not. Now we look at Psalm 81. You called in trouble, you called in tribulation, and I delivered you from that tribulation. I answered you in the secret place of thunder. The seven thunders that are sealed, that are secret. I proved you at the waters of Meribah, Salah. Meribah in Hebrew means strife, contention, tribulation. I proved you in the waters of tribulation, and you called in trouble at the end, at the seven thunders, and I delivered you then. I brought forth your salvation at the end of the seven thunders. In Ezekiel 18:1, judgment for all. As he told us in Ezekiel 7, here in Ezekiel 18, there's judgment for all. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, and this is the seventh trumpet, for all the souls are mine, the soul that sins, it shall die. But the man who shall be just, who has walked in my commandments and kept my ordinances to do them, he is righteous, he shall surely live, says Yah. But the people say the way of Yah is not straight. That's not right. What pride, what foolishness, the believers of false doctrine. Remember that faith without works is dead. Hear now, house of Israel, will not my way be straight? Is your way straight? No. When the righteous turns away from his righteousness and commits a trespass and dies in the trespass he has committed, he shall die in that trespass, in that sin. Again, the provoking house of Israel says, the way of Yah is not right. Is not my way right, O house of Israel? Is not your way wrong? It has been a great deception. Wake up. I will judge you, O provoking house of Israel, says Yah, each one according to his way, the narrow way or the broad way of destruction, which most are in, great deception, false doctrine of Western Christianity. Be converted, repent, and turn from all your wickedness. How do you find out what wickedness is? It's sin. Where is sin defined? In the first books of the Old Testament. And how do we do them? By following the example of the one that was sinless, our Messiah Yahushua HaMashiach. He always told those that ask him, how do I get salvation? He says, you know the commandments. Do them. Why do we not listen to the Creator of the heavens and the earth? Because of itching ears. Be converted, repent of all your sins, your wickedness, and it shall not become to you the punishment of iniquity, the punishment of sin. And overlaid on top of this, the seventh angel sounded that they should be judged, the whole world is being judged, and that you should receive reward. And each will receive the reward that he deserves based upon his works, as it says in Revelation, and as it says in Ezekiel 18. And the rest of Ezekiel 18 describes each of these ways of judgments. The soul that sins, it shall die. He that commits sins, he shall surely die. He shall die in his iniquity. The soul that sins shall die. And when the righteous man turns away from his righteousness and commits iniquity, commits sin, in those sins he shall die. That is telling you right there, once saved, always saved is another false doctrine. When the righteous turns away from his righteousness, he shall die in it. We must seek righteousness after we give ourselves to our Messiah, to Yahushua, our Savior. We must seek his righteousness. We must do good works. It's not grace only. There is grace for where we fall short of the glory of Yah, but we can't just do our own thing. It's his world and his way. But the man who shall be just, he is righteous, he shall surely live. And if a son sees his father's sins and does not do those sins, he shall surely live. The son that has shown judgment and mercy, he shall live. If the transgressor turns away from all of his iniquities, he shall surely live. It doesn't say some of his iniquities. It says, if the transgressor turns away from all of his iniquities, he shall live. There's 10 commandments, and there's more ordinances that our Messiah walked and showed us how to walk. And in his righteousness, which he has done, he shall live. When the wicked man turns away from his wickedness and does judgment and justice, judgment is righteousness, and justice, he shall surely live. And there's 6 mentions of souls dying from sin, and 6 mentions of souls that will live. And the souls that die commit sins, and the souls that live are righteous and just, and they receive the mercy. For at the 7th and last trumpet, thus says Yah, I will even take of the choice branches of the cedar from the top, I will crop off their hearts, and I will plant it on a high mountain, and I will hang it on a lofty mountain of Israel. Its branches shall be restored, it will bear fruit, and be a great cedar. And all the trees of the field shall know that I am Yahweh that brings low the high tree, And the high trees right now are the exalted ones of this earth in this current time, and exalt the low tree, those that are being afflicted, those that are in covenant with him, that are enduring the tribulations, and wither the green tree, those that are rolling in the money and the power right now, and cause the dry tree, again, those are in time of need and affliction right now, to flourish. I, Yahweh, have spoken and will do it. And Revelation 11:18 speaks just of that. It says, Thy wrath is come, that they should be judged, and you should give reward unto your servants the prophets and the saints, and them that fear your name, small and great, and you should destroy them which destroy the earth. And you can see how Ezekiel 17 overlays perfectly right there with Revelation 11:18. It is the time of judgment for the great and the mighty, and they will be brought low. And for the small and afflicted, they will be lifted up even to the high mountain, which is heavenly Zion. And 1 Corinthians says, At the last trump, the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed in a twinkling of an eye, and meet our Savior in the clouds, and rejoice with him forever. The Old Testament and the epistles and the Gospels and Revelation all point to a single event and a single time for the rapture and the final judgment of this age, and it's at the seventh and the last trumpet. Pre-trib rapture doctrine is another false doctrine and another part of the great deception that is at hand, of which many are indeed being deceived. So now we can see how Ezekiel chapters 8 through 17 line up with the seals and the trumpets and the thunders and the final trumpet, the seventh trumpet. And there's even more than that to understand. Even within those prophecies and the way they're overlaid, there are time markers in there. And so let's look. At the beginning of Ezekiel 8, verse 1, it said, It came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month. And then it went on, during that day, the prophecy that I received in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, they commit great abominations here that I should keep away from my sanctuary. The glory of the Elohim of Israel went up from inside the temple to outside the temple to the porch of the house, and then slay the old man and youth and virgins and infants and women, defile the house, start with the elderly, and kill many. And then after that the glory of Yahweh went up from the midst of the city and stood upon the mountain which is on the east side of the city. So now the entire city is uncovered from the protection of Yah. Therefore, Son of Man, prepare yourself baggage, because it's time for the people of the provoking house to go into captivity. And as an additional note, there was a total solar eclipse that traversed the United States on 8/21, year 2017. And this was the path of that solar eclipse that happened in 2017 on 8/21. Many millions in America saw this eclipse. It was quite an event, and it indeed traversed the entire country from the northwest corner to the southeast corner. And it was noted afterwards that in the path of the eclipse were at least 7 towns named Salem. And the name Salem refers to Jerusalem as evidenced in Psalm 76 verse 2, which uses Salem as a parallel for Zion, the citadel of Jerusalem. And a reminder of what Ezekiel 9:4 said during that day of prophecy of the 6th month and the 5th day. Go through the midst of Jerusalem and set a mark on the foreheads of the men that groan and grieve for all the iniquities that are done in the midst of them. Now, to find out what this really means, we have to use his calendar and not a modern calendar that we're under. Neither use the false lunar calendar that Judaism tells us is a true calendar, but is not. And there are messages out there to show you the truth on that, entitled In Search of the Lost Calendar and When Does a Sabbath Begin? And the calendar that we are going to use is the calendar under the message Lost Calendar and Found, the Kingdom Calendar. The structure was shown by Scripture and is consistent with all the timeline witnesses in the Scriptures as well. And this is using the method of the Kingdom Calendar to find the beginning of the year that we know as 2017. And the new year is determined by finding the day that the angle of the sunset changes from below 90 degrees to above 90 degrees on day 364 of the calendar. And the day that it changed from 89 degrees and change to just over 90 degrees in 2017 was 3/17, March 17th, 2017. The next morning also has to have had the sun rise at just over 90 degrees, as it's just changed from 89 degrees. And indeed, that happened the next day on March 18th of 2017. And as the kingdom calendar is shown, this is the intercalary day for the year. And day 1, month 1 of the next true scriptural calendar will be the next day, the following day. And so in 2017, the first day of the calendar which is kept in heaven, the kingdom calendar, started on March 19th, 2017. And here is the kingdom calendar showing the beginning of the year. And it starts on March 19th. And we will go to the beginning of the 6th month of the year in 2017. Because in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, is when the prophecy of these things were revealed. And when we look at the calendar in the 6th month, on the 5th day of the month, in the year 2017, that day is 8/21, August 21, which happens to be the day of that great solar eclipse that traversed the entire country of America. Behold, the days come, says Yah, that I will punish all them that are circumcised with the uncircumcised, and the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart. They are the provoking nation, and they are full of iniquity. And what did he tell us to do at the end of the 5th day of that 6th month? He told Ezekiel to prepare baggage for going into captivity. And the baggage will be used for going into captivity for most of the land. But also in prophecy, he has told us what we should do when we see these things coming. When we see the beasts and the signs of the times and the prophecies being fulfilled, he said, flee out of Babylon, get away from the beasts. Son of man, you dwell in the midst of the iniquities of those. Therefore, son of man, prepare yourself baggage for going into captivity. I have made you a sign to the house of Israel. Or go to the wilderness, where the deer and the wild goat and the donkey is. And Ezekiel 20, I was made known to them in their sight to bring them out of the land of Egypt. And again, the land of Egypt is a shadow picture for where we are right now. A land of iniquity, a land of slavery and captivity that he told us we were going into in the prophecy. But he's trying to bring us out of that land of slavery and the captivity. Your bags don't have to be packed to be taken into captivity for evil purposes and affliction and tribulation. He says, I brought them out into the wilderness, and I gave them my commandments. And I said to the children in the wilderness, don't walk in the customs of your fathers. Do not walk in their traditions. Do not keep their ordinances. Do not listen to their false doctrine. Have no fellowship with their practices, nor defile yourself. You are the temple. Do not defile your temple with the evil devices that the evil men have put upon the world, nor any unclean foods that are ordinances of the Most High. I have lifted up my hand against them in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the Gentiles. And I will bring you out of the nations, and take you out of the lands wherein you were dispersed. I will bring you into the wilderness of the nations, and I will plead with you there. As I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so also will I judge you, says Yah. This is not talking about past history only. This is a shadow picture, an end sample, as we are told in the epistles, for our understanding, so that we do not make the same mistakes that the children of Israel made when they were leaving Egypt. We are to leave Egypt. We are to leave captivity. We are to come out into the wilderness. The baggage for us of Ezekiel is not for captivity if we hear his words, but it's to get out of Babylon, to go to the wilderness. And as Revelation 12 says, and the woman did flee to the wilderness, where she had a place made ready from Elohim, from the Most High. That's what we're supposed to do. He's giving us all of these warnings to get out to the wilderness, flee from Babylon. Depart from her, my people, so you are not partakers of her sins and her plagues. Flee from her, flee from Babylon, and save your souls. And here, as we are told through these prophecies to flee to the wilderness, is where we will go back again to the beginning of the wilderness journey of the children of Israel out of Egypt. This is as they have left Egypt, the obedient of the children of Israel have left Egypt. They just watched Pharaoh and his armies drown at the bottom of the sea, and they're standing on the eastern bank of the sea. And Moses was told to command the children of Israel to observe the feast of unleavened bread, for you celebrated this feast with haste when you went forth from Egypt until you entered into the wilderness, for on this shore of the sea you completed it. Now you have to go back to Leviticus 23 to understand the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It says Passover is on the 14th day of the first month. The Feast of Unleavened Bread begins on the 15th day of the first month and runs through the 21st day of the first month. It's a 7-day feast, and it runs from the 15th of the month to the 21st. So after crossing over to the eastern side of the Sea, which is in Saudi Arabia today, Israel celebrated the end or the final day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread on the 21st day of the first month. The following morning, the next day, will be the 22nd day of the first month. And Moses brought the children of Israel up from the Sea and brought them into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days into the wilderness and found no water to drink. They came to Marah, could not drink the water of Marah, for it was bitter, tribulation. And he named the name of that place Bitterness. And as Revelation 10 says, John was given the little book. Take it and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter, but it will be sweet as honey in your mouth. He ate the book, and indeed it was sweet as honey in his mouth, but when he had eaten it, his stomach became bitter. Do you see how all of this is tying together? So you can see where Israel in the past had packed their bags and they had left captivity, and they listened, they were obedient to Yah, and they used their baggage to get into the wilderness. And the glory of Yah went up from the midst of the city and stood upon the mountain which is on the east side of the city. This shows that the glory of Yah, the protection of Yah, has now left the land. It's left the city, it's left the land, and now that land is unprotected for the evil devices and the adversary, Hasatan, to come in and sow his destruction. And we look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7. Paul says, "For the mystery of iniquity is already at work, only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way." This verse has been misinterpreted and misunderstood for hundreds of years. We go to the Greek and look at some words here. Letteth is G 27:22, which means to hold down, possess, retain, seize, or withhold. And that's the key use of the word letteth, is to withhold. And then the phrase, he be taken, is one word in Greek, G 1096, and is used with great latitude. It is to become, to be performed, to be showed, or to be separated. The two words out of is G 1537, which means from or out of. And the words the way is one Greek word, G 3319, which is middle, among, or midst. And we're going to reread now 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 7, with the words translated the way they should be. For the secret workings of lawlessness are already at work, only that which is now restraining will do until that one is separated from their midst. And that is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7 from the source. And I'm going to read it again. For the secret workings of lawlessness, the mystery of iniquity, is already at work, only that which is now restraining, which is the glory of Yah, which was in the temple and in the city, will do so until that one, who is the one, Yah, has removed himself from their midst. He is separated from their midst. For the mystery of iniquity is already at work until that which is now restraining, which is the glory of Yah that has been in our temple and in our land, he will restrain the secret workings of lawlessness until he separates himself from our midst, which he did in Ezekiel 11, when the glory of Yah went up from the midst of the city and stood upon the mountain. Do you see that? That is what 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7 is saying. It is a reference back to Ezekiel 11 and 12. And then what happens after the glory of Yah departs from the land? And the word of Yah came to me in the morning. It is time for the man of sin, because the mystery of iniquity was at work. And now the glory of Yah, the protection of Yahweh, his hand of protection has now been removed, just as prophesied when his glory completely departed Jerusalem. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come. The day of Yah will not come unless the falling away comes first by the means of the great deception and the false doctrines that are in it, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition. Now you know what is restraining. It's not the Christian church. It's not Christianity. Is anybody restraining anything in this world right now? Open your eyes. Take the scales off your eyes. So much evil and abomination in this world. The only one restraining these things in any way has been Yahweh and his glory and his protection. And Ezekiel 11 told us he started removing his protection bit by bit, leaving the temple and then leaving to above the city and then departing entirely from the city to leave it uncovered. And now you know what was restraining, because he's leaving right now. Can you not see the evil overtaking this country and this world? For the secret workings of lawlessness are already at work, only that which is restraining will do so until that one which is separated from their midst. And then the lawless one will be revealed. Many think that we're on the edge of rapture right now because they see so many terrible things happening. The scriptures are telling you right there that the evil that's happening right now just means that Yah's protection is leaving us in our country and our world right now, and we're about to see the entry of the lawless one, and he will be revealed. Now let's look at the timestamp that the prophecy leaves us. And the word of Yah came to me in the morning, saying, I am performing signs as I have done. And again, this is just after the glory of Yahweh departed from Jerusalem, from the land, and Ezekiel prepared baggage as a sign to us. Now comes the morning of year 6, month 6, day 6, and Thessalonians says that man of sin be revealed, and Revelation tells us his number is 666. Do you see that? Moses brought up the children of Israel from the sea and brought them into the wilderness. Just as we're supposed to do, preparing the baggage, go to the wilderness or go into captivity. They go into the wilderness on the 22nd day of the first month, the day after the end of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And the woman fled into the wilderness. Israel is the woman, the remnant of her seed, which is the remnant of the house of Israel, those that are not of the provoking house, those that are listening to his words, those that hear his words to get out of Babylon, flee from the midst of her, my people, take the baggage and go to the wilderness. Don't let your baggage be used to take you into captivity. There is a place for you prepared by Yah to protect you in the wilderness right now. And when he had opened the sixth seal, and the sun became black, and he is performing signs as he has done. And did you know that there will be next year a total solar eclipse that will traverse the United States on April 8th, 2024? This is the path that the solar eclipse of 2024 will take. And it's from the very middle of the south of the country all the way to the very northeastern tip of the country, the path of the totality. There are at least 7 towns named Salem or Jerusalem in the path, just like there were at least 7 Salems in the path of the eclipse of 2017. Again, there are at least 7 Salems and Jerusalems in the path of the eclipse of next year, 2024. And so we find what day this lands on in the kingdom calendar, the calendar of creation that is defined by the scriptures. And we use the same implementation to see what the first day of the first month of year 2024 is on the kingdom calendar. And on March 16th next year is when the sunset has moved from 89 degrees and change to just over 90 degrees, and that is day 364 on the calendar. The next morning, the sunrise is also just over 90 degrees to the east, and that is the intercalary day, or quote-unquote day 365 of the calendar, even though the kingdom calendar is 364 days per scripture. And the next day, using the kingdom calendar as defined by the scriptures, day 1, month 1 of 2024 is going to be March 18, 2024. And so we look at the kingdom calendar for next year, and we circle day 1, month 1, which is March 18th. And now we look at day 22 of the first month, which is when Israel started walking into the wilderness towards the bitterness of Marah, the beginning of that journey into the wilderness. And the 22nd day of the first month of next year is April the 8th. And that is the same day as the second eclipse that is traversing America. Now, to summarize these things, we go back to the prophecy. And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, and the glory of Yahweh went up from the midst of the city and stood on the mountain which is on the east side of the city. Therefore, Son of man, prepare yourself baggage. And at the beginning of this time, of the 6th month of the 5th day of the month, equals August 21st for the year 2017. When the first solar eclipse crossed America on month 6, day 5, using the kingdom calendar. And the word of Yah came to me in the morning, saying, I am performing signs as I have done, and this is now the morning of year 6, month 6, day 6, 666. Moses brought the children of Israel from the sea and then brought them into the wilderness, going towards the bitterness of Marah. And that day that he started that journey towards Marah was on the 22nd day of the first month. And when he had opened again the 6th seal on the 6th year, on the 6th month of the 6th day, the sun became black. And there was a solar eclipse next year on the same day that Moses started taking Israel into the wilderness, walking towards the water of Marah, for it was bitter, April the 8th of next year. Here's a picture I took of the total solar eclipse in 2017. And there's something interesting about a place called Little Egypt, because it is where X marks the spot where the total solar eclipse of 2017 crosses the path of the eclipse of 2024 next year. The very spot where they intersect, where their paths of totality cross, is called Little Egypt. And each of those solar eclipses have at least 7 Salems in their path. And there's also an annular eclipse coming later this year in 2023. And if you lay the annular eclipse of later this year onto the path of the other 2 solar eclipses from 2017 and 2024, they take the shape of an angled aleph, which happens to be the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet in the ancient Proto-Semitic font, which would have been used around the time of Moses. The solar eclipse path almost makes up a perfect aleph over the country. Now, the end. The letter at the end of the Hebrew alphabet is called Taw, and unlike some of the other Hebrew letters, this final letter of the alphabet remained largely unchanged until Babylon. And Taw, the last letter, the end, looks just like the English letter X, where X marks the spot between the 2 solar eclipses from 2017 and 2024. Yah said, I am performing signs as I have done. In Revelation, he said, I am Aleph and Taw, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. And so the path of the solar eclipses is like his fingerprint or his signature on this country. Because he said, I am the beginning and the end, the Aleph and the Taw, and you see the Taw right there, and you saw the Aleph before. This is his judgment coming. And if this calendar is right, and it lines up with these 2 prophetic signs, the end has come. The end has come. His protection is being removed right now in 2023. At the end of that series of prophecies that was on the 6th month and the 5th day, he removed his glory from Jerusalem. He's removing his glory and his protection from this land. And he's about to seal the 144,000. And the next morning begins the sixth seal, where the sun becomes dark. And we will test all these things, and we'll see if there's an earthquake. Again, I am not a prophet. I am not saying, thus says Yah, this will happen. But as we read the books and the prophecies, he told us that he would tell the prophets everything before he did it. And he told us the end from the beginning. And so we will watch closely next year after that eclipse to see if the man of sin is revealed. And then all with eyes open and ears to hear will know they have to leave Babylon immediately, or they will be caught in the trap, because the trap is about to be sprung. And then the 7 trumpets will start, and Yah's words will no longer linger, because the judgments start. And along with those declarations of judgment comes the hail and the fire and the blood and wormwood, and the coming of the anti-Messiah himself, endowed with the spirit of Hasatan. Thank you, everyone. I pray that you hear these words. The end has come.